Making the decisions that are shaping how companies impact the world. In each episode, we sit down with the thought leaders who are proving that building successful businesses and also building a better future don't have to be in conflict. I'm your host, Jeff Davis, co-founder of Circulins, one of the fastest growing digital product passport companies in the world. And our special guest today is a globally recognized leader in fleet sustainability and mobility innovation. He's the US head of fleet mobility services at Siemens Corporation. Today's guest is Adam Orth. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, man. Well, leadership today it isn't just about performance, it's also about responsibility. So let's get into it. Um, you guys have made a significant transition and are making a significant transition into electric vehicles. For people watching that are wondering exactly what am I talking about, could you tell them a little bit about what you guys are doing with your fleet?
Absolutely. Siemens as a company has made a significant goal of CO2 reduction and zero emissions by 2030. That said, from a fleet aspect, our fleet burns a significant amount of CO2. It creates a significant amount of CO2. That said, we have to have a electric fleet by 2030. So that as an initiative has been, not only an incredible undertaking, but also deemed itself an incredible journey.
Yeah, and when you say have to, it's self-imposed. You guys decided it was important and it was something that you wanted to do.
Correct. Yeah. With it being a top-down approach, in
Hmm.
my opinion, it makes it significantly easier because then we're all involved. Everyone is a part of the journey as a team, as a company. With us being a global company, it makes it even better, in my opinion, because we're best practice sharing state by state here in the U.S., country by country. When you're doing it as an entire organization, you're all working together, all have the same challenges, all have the same opportunities. So yeah, I get to peer to peer share with different countries, different approaches, and different vehicles. So it's rather interesting, and you're learning something new every day.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I mean, a few years ago, lots of companies were making some pretty big claims about transitioning to EVs, but then they barely did. You guys are like really doing it, you know. Would have been some of the lessons that you've learned along the way of like actually making that transition to electric vehicles.
Yeah, the neat part about how Siemens is approaching it, and it has approached it, is even prior to making the 2030 goals and the CO2 reduction, we were already on a path towards CO2 reduction and operational excellence. That said, we were already looking internally saying, okay, how do we best work as a company at this facility or at this specific role? Or how do we operationally look at ourselves, look in the mirror and say, hey, how do we want to look in the future? So we were already starting that path, including within the fleet space. And being in procurement, I have the benefit of working with or at Siemens Corp. So I get to work with each of the businesses and each of their approaches, each of their operational parts of Siemens. That in itself makes it different, makes it, hey, we need to look at this vehicle a little bit different. We need to look at this role a little bit different. That said, we were on that path. We continue on that path. Now you throw the electrical vehicles in the mix, and it
Mhm.
just makes that next vehicle, makes that next project that much more, focused on not only the reduction of CO2, but you're dramatically looking at how you're operating as a company.
Yeah, and being connected to all these different parts and all these different ways,
Right.
Siemens is focused on sustainability. How else? I know you're heavily involved on the EV fleet
Right.
transition, but how? What are some of the other ways where you've seen Siemens continue to make meaningful sustainability progress? You know, while so many companies have become a bit quieter in that area.
Yeah, I would say that's also a neat and unique part of Siemens is I have at my fingertips, I have the software, I have the hardware. So along this journey, I'm not only talking to external suppliers, but I'm talking internally, business by business, saying, what are you working on as it pertains to charging? What are you working on as it pertains to the entire ecosystem? Because Siemens is not only responsible, but leading the way in many instances as it pertains to electrification, as it
Mm-hmm.
pertains to hardware, like I said, hardware, software, technology alone. And then you put the fact that I'm procurement. So I'm putting that entire ecosystem together and being able to do that with internal vendors, external vendors. In many cases, a lot of the projects we work on with those suppliers are not only constant but more involved than they would have been in the past, especially when there isn't the next electric vehicle quite available yet. So you're pushing companies to say, hey, what about this? Can we get a payload of this manner? And then partnering like companies like General Motors, where they've been with us the bulk of the path here, saying, hey, yeah, it's great we have the vehicle, but we need to talk now about how we put different upfitting on this vehicle and how we change this vehicle and update it to work best for a specific role or even a specific part of the country or elsewhere. And like I said, the neat thing for us is that our fleet ecosystem is different, but as is how we use it.
Yeah, you just mentioned how, you guys have that partnership with General Motors. I think Siemens has a unique partnership with General Motors. How have you seen collaboration accelerate change?
Yeah, General Motors has been a major portion of our transition due to the fact that when we did our initial planning and we were already looking internally at our operations, we went directly into the field looking at what our next vehicle needed to be, also looking at, okay, when it is electric, what does it need to look like? How are we going to use it? And all those conversations have have been with the suppliers we use and companies like General Motors to say, hey, this is what we're going to look like in the future. We need to, we need you to support us along the way with that. And to that point, General Motors, in particular, they have their own portion of GM Energy. They're also working in spaces that Siemens is as well. So a lot of best practice sharing regarding, yes, we have a vehicle, but in that comes the greater ecosystem conversations that we're having regarding, energy management and where these smart vehicles are going and how they're used compared to, historically an industry that focused on how much gas are you putting in and how much maintenance are you putting in. Because for
Right.
us, with the electrification comes that reduction in maintenance. We're already seeing it. We're putting tires and wipers on these electric vehicles, which is significantly different than we've seen, not just in this specific fleet and not just in Siemens, but historically within the industry.
Okay. And looking back at the last few years, as a leader who's driving like large scale sustainability initiatives, what are some of the other observations and maybe even lessons learned from both the moments of glory and also the kicks in the teeth?
Yeah, the neat thing is that, and I alluded to it before, like the journey changes every day, but the key is that you have to be okay with that. Everything
Hmm.
is, it is not a toaster that you're plugging, it's not an appliance that you're plugging into the wall. Yes, it is a smart vehicle, but it's also not the vehicle probably that you used for the last 15 years to do your job. That said, suppliers are changing, the ability to charge at home, charge publicly, the means of which you're able to do your job and doing your job is fundamentally changing as a part of electrification. So to that point, you have to be okay with, oh, well, guess what? Something changed and now this is how we're going to approach it. This is how we're going to do it. Or technology wise, keeping up with what is next, how the software is talking to the hardware. What is the next best hardware to use? What's the next best software? And combining all of that within an ecosystem, especially within a procurement ecosystem, where I say, hey, not only do I want to see what they're doing, I want to control the costs in new ways that we haven't had the ability to in the past. Specific to where's the energy? How much are we paying for the energy? Where's the energy going? Which part of the U.S. do we have the most energy right now? Because to that point, that energy topic becomes a greater scale when you're working for a company like Siemens, where I can have an electric vehicle as a part of that, procurement energy distribution ecosystem. I can have that vehicle go to a smart building that is, completely monitored by Siemens software, and then plug into Siemens hardware. That in itself makes it an even more unique journey. But to that point, back to my comment, it's going to change every day. And you have to be comfortable with the fact that, okay, let's make an adjustment. Like, there's something we're going to do tomorrow is going to be better. What we did yesterday, I have to assume is not what we're going to do 6 months from now. So
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
journey.
You made the point that it's going to change every day. It's a bit of a moving target, probably forever, but what's your perspective on the future of fleet electrification and sustainable operations?
Yes, with electrification, I absolutely believe that fundamentally the industry within the fleet space has the ability to shift to energy management. Back to my comment about, the ability of looking at where the energy is, where you're getting it, and then controlling the greater ecosystem through procurement, but also controlling, where that energy is, and have that ability to facilitate where that energy goes is a helpful, in my opinion, a helpful means of what is an industrial change, an industrial shift
Mm.
with the technology we have. Because, yeah, we've had smartphones for a long time, but giving people smart vehicles as a tool of their job is not only a dramatic change management shift within the industry, but it's a completely different approach to their day-to-day jobs, and it's a completely different tool. Giving somebody a Chevy Silverado EV,
Mm.
it may look very similar to the Silverado they had prior, but how they use it, how they drive it, how they fuel it, a
Do
dramatic
you get
shift.
some pushback? Like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. To that point, we're constantly getting pushback. You know, for as many, things that are going fantastic, we will
Right.
still get the pushback, and that's all part of the change management
Yeah.
piece too.
Yep.
Is the day-to-day scroll of excuses on how it doesn't work and why it couldn't possibly work for me. That is a thing, but you have to listen to those voices, because those are the same voices that got us the progress and continues to get us the progress for what truly is next, not just for Siemens, but for the industry as a whole.
And I'm sure there's the same people that were saying, but I like the buttons on my BlackBerry.
Honestly, that is very, very, very similar, because, like I said, that not only the infotainment alone within these vehicles, but how you use them, how you drive them, one pedal driving, uh, you know, asking Google Gemini within the dashboard of your car to tell you where you should be fueling and how much energy your vehicle is going to have by the time you even get there. That
Mhm.
is a fundamental change and fundamental shift. And then you throw the procurement piece in, where those of us that have to go out and put this ecosystem together, we have to make that easy. We have to make it that much easier for the end user and for our drivers to be able to get to our customers, service our customers, use that tool that we're giving them in the most effective way. Also, do it at a cost-effective way. But to that point, as we evolve within the industry, that is going to be a major shift for those that are electrifying. But to that point, we're constantly going to get the feedback. But if you take it lightly and you don't listen, you won't truly figure out what the next best step is for you or your company.
What does sustainable leadership mean to you in one sentence?
Sustainable leadership to me is not only coming up with solutions, but then actually doing something about them.